Talk Show. Recorded live.
Todd.
These are provisions, broadly and specifically with regards to infrastructure, that Republicans have traditionally supported broadly.
I suspect that one of the really big surges in the market for housing going forward is going to be the immigrant population.
But I don't, as a president, have the authority to go, if our national security is threatened, then you do it properly.
I would remind you that extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice. And let me remind you also that moderation in the pursuit of justice is no virtue.
This is how liberty dies. With thunderous applause.
Welcome to Liberty Cat Talk Live. This is your host, Todd Andrew Barnett, and his co-host, James Landreth Jr. Hey, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to Liberty Cat Talk Live. We are now on the air. This is a new episode of the show back in the new year. Hey, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. It's great to be back this year. And we just took some time off because of the holidays. I hope you have a lovely Christmas. And I hope you enjoyed your New Year celebration and whatnot. So it's going to be an exciting show tonight. And we're going to have some very interesting discussions tonight. So we will be on the air, and, well, we're already on the air. But I will say that we got a lot to talk about tonight. But before we get into the nuts and bolts of our discussions tonight, I just want to remind my listeners to wear your liberty caps. We are freeing ourselves from the control of the state. We are freeing ourselves from the control of the Republicans and Democrats. We're fighting them tooth and nail all the time, every day, no excuses. Okay, the number to call into the show if you have a question for our panel, it's pretty simple and very easy to do. It's 724-444-7444. You enter the call ID 91679, then pound sign, and then you enter 1, then pound for a PIN. The PIN number is usually for, say, a landline number or a cell phone number that you can enter in, but you don't need to do that. Otherwise, you can just enter in as a, just 1 and pound sign, and there you have it. So we're all set to go, and we're good to go. So having said all that, we are going to bring in on the panel right now. Apparently, I guess we're having a little technical difficulty with, if anybody can hear me.
I can hear you.
Okay. So I guess Jackie is having a problem with the call. So I guess she'll be back on the air. Yeah. Okay. Having said all that, I guess she's having like a little technical difficulty. I thought it was me, but it turns out I think it's more on her than it's me. So, or maybe it's her connection to Skype or something. I don't know. Having said all that, we're going to go into our introduction. I thought Bill Anderson was going to join us tonight, but it sounds like he may not be able to join us. because I haven't heard from him, and he hasn't confirmed that he's going to be on the show with us. So here we go. This is our show, episode 61, so here we go. Okay. She is the CEO and president of a company called lead-your-yourself.com. She is a libertarian, very much of a free market voluntarist, a market anarchist, I guess, if you will, in that strong sense of the word. And she is fantastic all the way around. Please welcome our very good guest, Anja Hartleb. I think that's how you pronounce your name, right? Anja?
No, it's Anja.
Anja? I'm sorry.
That's all right. Don't worry about it.
Okay. And, it looks like my partner in crime here is here. I'll introduce him as soon as I get the call.
I'm here.
Hey, okay. Hey, we'll have you on in a second here.
Okay.
I guess maybe Jim may not be coming on tonight. I don't know. Or maybe he's running late. Either way, it's fine. She is a libertarian activist in the show. She's probably one of the best of the liberty folks in the movement. And she's fantastic all the way around. Nice gal, great to work with. And I think she's going to be on the air with us. I hope she's going to be on the air with us. Please welcome our very good friend, Jackie Fiest. Jackie, can you hear me? I guess she's not on the call. Let's see if I can add her on back into the call. Jackie, can you hear me? Oh, okay. She's having connection issues. We'll bring her back. And all right. And right now we have our third panelist who has joined us. Jackie will be with us momentarily. She's having connection issues. Maybe she's downloading a new version of Skype. I don't know. He is a blogger, writer, economics professor at Frostburg State University, and a very great guy all the way around, and awesome to work with in the movement. Please welcome Bill Anderson.
Yeah.
Bill, you're with us.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, great. Oh, boy. Just remind everybody, the dial-in number. If you got any questions for our panel, please let us know. Hopefully Jackie will join us back in. I guess she's having a little connection issue. So, well, I'll see if I can get her back in. Maybe she'll rejoin us. Okay, so, I guess she is back so far, so good. I guess I'll add her back to the call here. Jackie, are you with us? Oh boy, come on, Jackie. Okay, there we go. Jackie, are you with us? Okay. If not, I guess she'll have to work out the problems with her. Jackie, you with us?
I am.
Okay. Were you able to work out your connection issue?
Well, I tried, starting everything over again, so hopefully I'll be good.
Okay, that's good. Okay, so we're all here waiting for Jim to show up anytime soon, so I guess he's running late, so that's okay. You know, he's all good to go. All right, so let's start off the show tonight by getting into the Iowa Caucus. Apparently, this week, everybody was so stoked, everybody was convinced that Ron Paul might win first place, for the Iowa thing. It seemed like a very strong possibility. And then all of a sudden, because a week before that, Rick Perry, or not Rick Perry, but Rick Santorum or even Mitt Romney were not even a blip on the radar as far as getting that kind of support. And for the first 40 minutes, I noticed that Ron Paul was at the top. I mean, he was number one, Romney second, and sometimes Santorum being second, Romney being third, up until the final end when everybody started pouring in and bam, Ron officially being in third and Romney being ahead by 8 votes and Santorum being, in second place. But my question is this a very strong showing for Ron Paul? And was this election rigged? And was this definitely a clear case indicator that Ron Paul has a stronger chance of beating out these turds in New Hampshire? What say you, Bill?
Well, it's hard to know. I was reading some things on Lew Rockwell's page on about I guess some of the accounts that were coming in, and just put it this way, I do believe that the Republican establishment in Iowa would do anything to keep Ron Paul from winning, and was there some hanky-panky with the vote counting? I wouldn't put it past them. I wasn't there, and so, I can't say, I'm sure there was, but let's just say that certainly the possibility exists that it happened.
How about you, Anja? Yeah, what do you think?
Well, I agree with Bill. I think that the Republicans are definitely having, they really don't want what Ron Paul stands for. As far as any type of tinkering, I don't know. I mean, that's up to empirical evidence. But I do find it kind of curious that, it almost seems like they want to willfully underestimate them, sort of give the, of course, in cooperation with the big media, to give the public the impression that someone like Ron Paul, whatever he stands for, is just simply not electable. Right. It's not what the population wants. And I think in some ways, I think that's the real crime, if one may use that word in this context.
Oh, exactly. Right. Yeah. And let me say something, and I'll say that, Ron Paul actually represents the end of the way of doing things that have been done for a long time. And there are just a lot of people who, frankly, their living, their careers depend on it. And they give us the rhetoric about small government, and lower taxes and the like. But obviously, it's nonsense. And so, Ron is coming in there and says, by the way, I am going to do these things. And there are a lot of people who realize that their gravy train is going to be threatened, just like 3 years ago when the market had told the CEOs on Wall Street, you've had a good time in your Connecticut mansion. It's time for you to go bankrupt, sell your possessions, and go live like other people. And they just couldn't handle that. And so, again, I think that that's the threat that Ron Paul represents.
Right. What about you, Jackie?
Well, there's never really been an election that really has gone the way it's supposed to, so I really see no reason for this one to be any different. I had read something where there were supposedly some threats to the count, so they moved it to an undisclosed location. So that kind of struck me as fishy right there. You know, isn't Obama the one who promised us accountability and transparency? Well, when they're deliberately taking the count and moving it somewhere where those who are counting the vote or who are casting the votes don't know where they're going to be they'll be counted, that's fishy right there. And Ron Paul was a favorite going in, and all of a sudden he lost by 8 votes. And I'm like, yeah, that just strikes me kind of fishy. So I have to say with everyone else, I agree with that. I wasn't there, but do I think something went on that wasn't supposed to? Yes, I do.
You know, I will say this, that I think that what we saw that night really underscored what the establishment really wanted out of the Iowa caucus. I mean, it's pretty obvious that, you know, they wanted anybody but Ron Paul to win that caucus, only because they really want somebody to beat Obama. And in their dreams, for fuck's sake, I mean, for crying out loud, they think that somehow if they just pick old Mitty there, and remember now in the eyes of the social conservatives in Iowa, that's the shit, right? Ahead of by 8 votes, and he's going to be, you know, solid, 2 thumbs up. He's going to beat Obama. They're so stoked at the possibility that he could, you know, wipe the floor with Obama, except, no, it's not going to happen. I mean, you know, I mean, for crying out loud, CNN was already projecting Romney as the winner at one point. Well, actually, I'm sorry. At first, originally, they were projecting Santorum as the winner and Romney coming in second. And then next thing you know, Romney's ahead by 8 votes, therefore he wins. It's like, you guys can't even get your entire contest right half the time. And you're trying to basically marginalize Ron Paul and his merry band of supporters, including me, by making this out to be that Mitt Romney is going to be, you know, the savior of America because he is electable, that the kind of guy you want, even though he's only 25% of the Republicans really want this guy. The other 75% don't. The last conservative to win Iowa was Mike Huckabee at 33% in 2008. And they couldn't even get anything higher. They couldn't even beat that record previously in 2008.
Exactly.
So it's nothing but a shit sandwich that the people are being served on a platter in Iowa. Isn't that right, Anja?
Well, yes, but I mean, you could say the same thing about anything that goes on in politics. I mean, so it's, you know, I mean, it's a, yes, to add to your image, a big heaping, stinking pile of rhinoceros, you know, excrement. But, so in that respect, you know, I sort of take the attitude of, you know, nothing, absolutely nothing surprises me anymore. And I think, you know, I mean, I know this is probably not what we want to talk about, but this is sort of one of those cases where you really need to start thinking about is the political way. I mean, that this doesn't wake people up about that the political way is the way to go, so to speak, or I should say is not the way to go. Yeah. That's the thing that surprises me. I mean, that people are still fast asleep at the wheel, you know, at midnight, running into the tree, that's, I think, what's really scary about all of this.
Yeah, I agree, because you're looking, what you're looking at is a situation in which people are there's a well, and the well is just full of rancid water, and we're supposed to continue to go to this well, continue to draw from it, and we're supposed to declare that the water is sweet and good to drink, when in fact, it's rancid.
It tastes like shit. It's basic.
Yeah, you'd rather drink the water, the tap water in Bolivia than this stuff. But it's absolutely amazing how they can constantly airbrush these people. But again, it takes, the paraphrase Hillary Clinton, it takes a village, and actually what it takes is a media, this whole progressive media, these people who are constantly trying to tell us that these politicians are the lifeblood of the world, that they are our sustenance, and on, and you just want to barf. It's beyond pathetic, and now we're in, let's face it, we're in an age of destruction. These are very destructive people.
It really disappoints me to no end when I see this sort of behavior going on. I mean, when you look at Mitt Romney, and this guy is a fucking clown who might as well look like Ronald McDonald coming out of a out of a titty bar, with Coke lined up on his nose. I mean, this is a guy who basically has this idea, well, I'm going to go after Obama, showing him that, Obamacare is wrong, even though it's modeled after my plan, but the way I did it was okay. In my state.
Oh, God.
Yeah, whatever. And then you've got this other clown, Rick Santorum, who has nothing but a big heart-on for gays. I mean, he keeps talking about it like they're his best friend. Sometimes you wonder if he's actually dressed up as a drag queen all his life. This is a guy who is pathetic. He wasn't even a blip on the radar. I mean, these Republicans, I swear, they are just basically a bunch of crazy batshit nitwits, aren't they, Jackie?
Well, I saw something with Rick Santorum on TV today. Someone asked him about, who should be able to marry and who shouldn't, and he gave just the wrong answer and told all of them that they weren't going to interrupt him, and he just got booed off the stage. I mean, that was the first thing I'd ever really seen, because I don't really know anything about this guy, to be frank. I really don't care. So that was the first thing I'd ever seen of him. Was just, having a press conference like that, taking a question from someone and saying, well, no, you can't interrupt me, you can't do that, and then getting booed off the stage. So that was the first thing, honestly, that I'd ever seen of him. And I was like, wow, and you want to be president? You're starting off by telling people we can't say this and we can't say that, but you want to be president of the United States. So, yeah, this guy, he's already come on my bad list, and I have a feeling that if the votes really would have been counted the way they should have been, first of all, in a public place where everyone knew what was going on, I have a feeling this guy would be so down the list, and I do honestly believe that Ron Paul would be at the very, very top.
Yeah.
Go ahead. You're going to say.
Yeah, I think a guy like Santorum is that he picks fights that frankly he's not going to be able to win, and I think Ron's got it right. That look, let's not make marriage a federal issue. We're not going to have, if a state wants to legalize gay marriage, frankly, it's their right to be able to do it. And I think what he did support was saying, look, that other states should not be forced to recognize it if they don't want to. And and I don't mind that. I'm with him in that I think marriage really needs to be out of the realm of the state anyway. I mean, it's not that long ago that we even put it in, and they put it in. Really made a big deal in this country because of racial issues. We can't have miscegenation, and so that's where a lot of that came from. And I think that you have to people just have to understand that there are limitations to what you can do in a social forum, but unfortunately that it's like Ron Paul and the business of the drug war. Oh, Ron Paul wants everybody strung out on drugs. Ron Paul wants to force everybody to accept gay marriage, and these are things that it's just, I mean, it's laughable, it's hilarious, but this is where these people are, and it's a very sad set of circumstances because they don't even know how to argue. Gary Bauer, I mean, he's a twit. I mean,
he's a twit.
He's a twit.
He's a twit.
He is.
I mean, this is a guy. I mean, let's be clear about something. I mean, I'm glad you even brought up Rick Santorum, being laughed at on TV, Jackie, because he was the one that was being laughed at and jeered at this college Republican convention in Keene, New Hampshire, where apparently he was trying to give a speech, like a campaign speech there, and he basically asked the students, "Are you mean to tell me that the state shouldn't be involved in marriage, that people should marry whomever they want?"
Oh my gosh, what a revelation. Oh my goodness.
Yes. And he stood there like, I can't believe what I'm hearing here.
You don't believe that I should have total control over your lives? Oh my God.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
Like the idea has never dawned on him. Okay. And then I love how he was on Piers Morgan days ago, defending his bigotry against gays and hiding behind the Holy Bible when he was being asked this question. Are you? You're borderline on being a bigot. Well, I believe in my views. What the Catholic Church teachings teach us, and I think there are some. There are some personal things that the government shouldn't be regulating. That is immoral, but it's okay for gay marriage. I mean, he's only saying this shit to get elected.
Thank you.
He's doing this to buy votes.
Yeah.
He's doing this to make himself look good on national TV. I mean, did anybody catch the video where he was at this conference the next day after he was doing this interview? And this student, I applaud this student for standing up to him, basically calling him out on his bigotry. And he goes, "Okay, lawyer." I mean, this young girl with a bunch of these students there who basically says there are, studies that show that, children that are raised in two-parent homes, especially in gay children, don't have any problems. And this guy is living in the dark ages.
This guy's running for president, and he got flustered by a female college student just asking him questions.
Yes.
I mean, he's not prepared. I mean, I don't agree with what he believes in, and he strikes me as one of those types that would probably try to bring back sodomy laws saying gay men can have sex together, but doesn't want a microscope put on what he and his wife do. I mean, he just creeps me out. But this little girl totally flustered him on TV.
Yeah.
He's not prepared for the press room. He is not prepared.
Yeah. If a child can make you have to run for the exits, why then we know that you're really not ready for prime time. And I think that what you have to be able to do, because the United States, thank God it's not a theocracy. Although I think that
it's not.
Yeah, except well, I will say this, that as a college professor, to a certain extent, I'll be very honest, it is a theocracy of political correctness, and I've seen a lot on the side of political that the colleges, basically a lot of universities really do border on being theocracies, but they're theocracies of the left. But what you have, but what I love,
and there's also theocracies of the right too.
Exactly, there's what you want to be able to, I think Ron really does a good job of running through that minefield of saying, look, it's not my job as president to tell you what to believe, to tell you what to do in this thing. It is my job to be the executive of the federal apparatus, and I'd like to get rid of a lot of it. But in the meantime, that you have to be able, that you say, look, there are a lot of different kind of people in this country, and in a commercial republic, interestingly enough, they work together. People do all sorts of things together. It's only when you start bringing this other stuff in that you get people at each other's throats. And and I think that you have to be able to, to know when and where to back off. But I'll tell you, a lot of these folks, they don't know how to do that.
Can I jump in there really quick?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
This is sort of the issue that I've been grappling with because, I'm not making the argument for it, but, if you're going to have some kind of intellectual elite of which politicians supposedly are supposed to be, our experts and social engineers and whatnot are supposed to be part, then at least don't sit there and cater to the irrationalities of the populace. That's just sort of a classic case of that, right? That's the problem with democracy, ultimately.
Right.
So, while I'm not advocating, having that kind of system, I'm just saying that if you're going to sit here and say, well, we have to, this is the system, we need to work within it, blah, blah, blah. And that's, to me, where Ron Paul sort of stands out because he's not the kind of person who caters to that kind of stuff, and that's so rare anyways these days.
Boy, I think that's a good point. That's a very good point. His presidency is not about setting people against each other. It's not like saying, well, hey, this guy has something that you don't have. It's my job as president to take it away from him and give it to you. And the like, and right. I appreciate that, and look, but what's really interesting here is a man who is saying, okay, what I want to do as president is preserve these relationships and keep us from having to invade other countries, allow people some freedom in their lives, and he's just being pilloried. If you read the New York Times, they hate him. I guarantee if the man were assassinated, they would probably cheer on the assassin.
But what's really interesting and what's very, very scary about this whole thing is that if Santorum were elected to be president, if he got the nomination, I know that. I know it's not going to happen. But let's say, theoretically, if he were the GOP nominee, he told Chris Wallace on Fox News that if he had his druthers, he would bring back Don't Ask, Don't Tell. Okay, this is honest to God. I'm not kidding here.
You can't
and it's funny because, he's basically saying that, well, gays should, not, we shouldn't be quartering, straight people with gays, and they should not be allowed to serve openly in the military. And, Chris Wallace basically just tore the guy to pieces because what he was arguing for was very similar to what a general was saying about black and whites serving in the military. And my comments about this whole thing on Facebook were, oh, yeah, I just want to shove my manliness in that ass of yours just before I just want to get blown to bits because I want straight people to become gay.
That's the thing I think that gets me the most about the whole why people like Rick Santorum make gays such a subject. Gays, when they come right down, people who are gay who are humans, and if there's someone running at them with a gun, why do you really think that sex is the first thing that's going to enter into their minds? How about like they're going to hump in a foxhole moments before they're going to die? Well, that's what people like Rick Santorum think, though. To them, just because someone just happens to be gay, their whole life is defined by their attraction to people of the same sex, and it's just like that's so shallow-minded and so idiotic. It's something that I cannot even wrap my head around, and it just angers me. And I'm not even gay, but it just I don't see where this whole train of thought comes from.
Well, I think that they, I think they've made it to, such, a big point that now I will say this on, that's not, to me, that's not the, the problem. All this, the stuff that you're bringing up, which I agree with the point you're making. Unfortunately, what we're going to see in the armed forces is very much, though, another rendition of political correctness running from the other side. Whereas anybody, it's you had better agree with everything that we're doing, or else we're going to make your life a living hell.
And I agree.
Yeah, and I think that's I think that's one place where the libertarian gays are very different from, say, the gays on the left. Gays on the left really want to use it as a way to, impose yet another dictatorship of thinking. And so, and people like us are arguing, say, wait a second, didn't we just overthrow one dictatorship of thinking? Why do we have to impose another? And that's where, that's the unfortunate side of it. But, like I said, a guy like Santorum, not ready for prime time and certainly not ready to go in the White House. My gosh, I'll guarantee you that as much as I dislike Obama, I guarantee he'd still be a better president than Rick Santorum. And that's not because I think Obama's any good. It's because I think Santorum would be that bad.
And you mentioned political correctness at colleges and universities. I just graduated from the University of Texas, and everything that you just mentioned about you better absorb our way of thinking as far as the gay and lesbian issue, it's just the same with minorities, if not worse.
Yeah,
especially when it comes to socialistic issues. If you don't believe that rich white people should have their property stolen from them and given it to minorities, then you are a racist. And it's not you have a different point of view. It's not that you want to empower people in a different way. It's that you are a racist. I am white, and I didn't agree with a lot of the rhetoric that I heard, and I was called a racist flat out. I mean, never by any of my professors, but the little positive people around them.
Yeah, did they ever call you an Aggie?
No. Actually, I went to the University of Texas at El Paso, so I was a minor.
Oh yeah, hey, that's right. I ran a 2-mile run in a meet on that track in 1973. and it was freezing. It was in March. It was freezing cold that night, and the wind was blowing. And I had no idea that track is located at 4,000 foot altitude. And I was just out there running. I ran a really good race, but I'm glad I didn't know about the altitude until afterwards.
Well, I think another important point that needs to be brought up here is that there is a problem. Yes, there is a problem with political correctness, and not just from the left, but also the religious correctness from the right.
Yeah.
That you can't trash Christians because we're always right. We can be intolerant, and we can shove our intolerance down your throat. We can tell you what to believe. You don't like it, tough shit.
You don't like it, you're going to hell.
You're going to hell, exactly.
Yeah.
And this is the problem. I wish people would stop imposing their forms of political correctness on everybody else and just leave everybody else alone.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, it's hard to find in this political arena today. It's that kind of attitude, that kind of viewpoint is, that's singled out as being dangerous. I mean, hell, everything's dangerous, I guess, but it's very unfortunate.
Well, I mean, the issue there is that it all boils down to some form of collectivism, one way or another. It's like if it's not. Yes. If it's not, I am, black, instead of saying, oh, let's see, I'm an individual who has X, Y, and Z interests and who has, it's like you take that, and if you're not part of one of those groups, then you just better make sure that you're going to be part of another, and that becomes your whole identity. And this kind of collectivist thinking is just, it's so rampant and it's so ingrained that you're not, that's essentially what and those are the kinds of, I think, also, most people are just not aware that those are, unstated premises of which people are, they're just not conscious of it. And once you start bringing it up, you better get yourself a handgun because you're going to be attacked to no end. Nobody wants to be told that, that they're just an irrational.
Give them some time; they'll take our handguns too.
Oh, trust me.
Well,
but that may be for a while.
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. That's and I'll point out something, and that is that I actually come into all of this. The subculture that I've been in, almost all my life is actually the evangelical subculture, and I know it very, very well. I have, over the last decade, I've lost a lot of friends. I'm talking about lifelong friends, because I just was not going to accept the police state mentality of the Bush administration. And I mean, I've had, even my mother's mad at me. And it has nothing to do with religious
I don't
faith.
think you're welcome over to the Thanksgiving and Christmas from now on, Bill. But that's just me saying.
Well, it's funny. I mean, she just but the thing that where I've really gotten mad has been going after individuals, guys like John Ashcroft, and I said, okay, this is what Ashcroft says he believes. This is what John Ashcroft actually has done when he had political power, and these two things are mutually exclusive. And I mean, you're talking about, and I've said these to Ashcroft's friends, his good friends of his. They hate me for it, but that's life. You lose.
But one of the reasons why supposedly Ron Paul came in third, even though he really came in second.
Well, maybe.
But the reason why the media is saying he came in third, a lot of the caucus people were thinking, you know what? I like Ron Paul's positions domestically. It's his foreign policy. He's very isolationist.
Yeah, he's isolationist.
You guys have it
he doesn't want to crisp them motherfuckers in Iran. He doesn't want to crisp them Arabs.
Right. Heaven forbid we mind our own damn business.
Oh, I know.
Well, but that's a total misunderstanding of. I mean, there's isolationists, which is, as a friend of mine pointed out, you just go and board yourself up in your house and never talk to anybody. And there's non-interventionists, which is, hey, let's just focus on voluntary interactions with other people, like trade, and don't mess in their, political, socioeconomic, geographic, whatever kind of issues that they're having.
Look, isolation,
and especially not send our young people over there to get their limbs shot off. I mean,
exactly. And isolationism. I mean, look, we're looking. Let's say, for example, North Korea. Now, that's an isolationist thing, or China for many years, or the old Soviet Union. Even though they were involved in international communist movements when they could do it, generally speaking, I mean, these are isolationists. They tried to be, China especially tried to have autarky. The idea of we're going to make everything Chinese. That's what isolationism is. But let me give you an example. Switzerland doesn't.
Right.
I mean, do people think of the Swiss
as Switzerland isolationist?
Oh, hell no. Exactly right. That, it's...
Would Mitt Romney and Santorum and Gingrich accuse Switzerland of being isolationist because
Probably.
They're not part of the UN? I mean...
exactly. And I think that it's just...
I think that depends on if they have their money there, but, that's another story.
Good line.
But, here's another question that those people who make the argument, and this is like an argument that I've been making lately about this, and I've been making the rounds in public about this, is, you guys accuse Ron Paul of being isolationist because he doesn't want an interventionist foreign policy. Have any of you ever served in combat? With the exception of being Rick Perry. What about you, Romney? What about you, Ricky? What about you, Newt? Have you ever served in combat? Ron Paul is a fucking war veteran. He is a medical doctor who was a medical soldier in Vietnam, who fought in, he didn't exactly have a handgun, but he was there tending to the wounded soldiers.
Yeah,
he saw the battlefield.
Yeah. You see it a lot more closely as a medic. I had a good friend who was a medic in Vietnam, and one day he and I were driving someplace, and he was just telling me some stories, and absolutely, I mean that you have to understand that that a guy like Ron Paul, when he's talking about what happens in warfare, that you ought to listen. But these guys, I think that they just dream of being leaders in war and leading their I mean it's just freaking nonsense. But this is where I mean it's this notion. Hey, we're tough guys. It's like was it Schwarzenegger?
That's right. We got to be like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah,
let's
face it, people. Schwarzenegger is not like Schwarzenegger. It was all an act. It was a
Bruce
movie.
Willis isn't like Bruce Willis.
Oh, exactly.
Or then you got people like John Kerry that are reminding us every 2 seconds that they were in Vietnam.
Oh,
it's
is
like
that not pathetic?
They glorify this stuff.
John Wayne was a better fighter than Schwarzenegger and Bruce Willis. But all kidding aside, I mean, Clint Eastwood was even better at it than those yahoos. I mean, come on, I mean, Charles Bronson was even better at it than Schwarzenegger than Bruce Willis.
Hey,
I mean, who are you kidding here? This is the thing. About Romney and Santorum. what do you think are their chances for New Hampshire? Do you think they're going to get ahead in New Hampshire and South Carolina and Florida and Nevada? I mean, are they going to get anywhere? What say you on this? How about you, Anja? I mean, do you think that they're going to win the polls, or do you think Ron Paul is going to win any one of these? I think he could very well take New Hampshire, but I don't see how Romney could get New Hampshire because he's not popular nationwide. I mean, nobody wants this guy. He's a joke.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's I'm not gonna be. I mean, you wouldn't want to pay me to be a prediction, person as far as that is concerned. I mean, looking at New Hampshire, I think Ron Paul could do decidedly better there. Yeah, and I don't see Romney, really getting a huge foot there, but I'm not sure. I mean, it's just one of those things that it's so hard to say. But I mean, the bottom line is sort of like, well, first of all, who's going? How many people are going to turn out? I mean, that's also one of those questions. And how representative is that sort of the general viewpoint that is out there? Because it tends to, people who tend to be passionate about these things that tend to be the ones who turn out, and the people who are sort of on the fringe or disgusted, as we are, perhaps. They might just throw in the towel and be like, "This is just, I'm voting for Tweedledee or Tweedledum." I mean, that's just. What's the point?
I will say right now, I think, for one thing, it was probably, for all intents and purposes, the handwriting's on the wall for Romney and Santorum collectively. Because, let's be honest, even if any one of them do get the vote, and even Mark Edge of Free Talk Live believes that Romney's going to get the vote, and a lot of people do believe that he's going to get the vote, the GOP nomination. Mm-hmm. Even if he did get the GOP nomination, the fact of the matter is, if he does, it would mean a clear-cut victory for Barack Obama. Because nobody's going to want a two-bit, one-state governor who is a hypocrite. They would rather take somebody, at least if they're going to be a status, they'd rather take somebody that we have in office now over some idiot who can't even get his record clear enough and who's very wishy-washy on issues from a fiscally conservative standpoint.
Yeah. I think something to keep in mind, even though this is not shilling for Ronald Reagan, but if you remember that Reagan ran in 1980 as at least a semi-free market conservative, and of course, I mean, the pundits all. I mean, I remember all during the primary. It was, Jerry Ford tried to butt in on any number of occasions because if Reagan is nominated, he couldn't possibly win. I mean, nobody would listen to that stuff. It's just going to be awful. Carter's going to wipe the floor with him, and who wiped the floor with in the end? And I think that, Ron Paul, the argument that, he couldn't beat Obama, I think he would present a real challenge to Obama that Romney isn't going to. I mean, Romney is basically. Let me tell you what. If he gets a nomination, he's going to run on the platform that he's going to be a better manager of the economy than Barack Obama, as though the president is a manager of the economy. You don't want a president to be the manager of the economy. What you want is for somebody just to get the heck away and let the entrepreneurs do their thing. Let the Stephen Jobs, may he rest in peace, let those people, do their thing. And but unfortunately, we've got either that people who either want to manage it, will help the entrepreneurs, will subsidize the hell out of them, and they don't get it. But they think, hey, we're for entrepreneurship because why? We're going to have cheap government loans, and we're going to subsidize solar power and things like that. And so I think that that Ron, and I know it's not part of the question you asked, but I think that Ron Paul actually would present a real live challenge in a way that Obama couldn't. And I'll tell you what, I mean that Obama really is an utter disaster. I mean this guy is trying to take a meat axe to the economy. I mean he really does hate capitalism. But the other thing about Obama is that he's a rabid environmentalist. I mean, much more so even than Al Gore. And and I think that that's something a lot of people don't understand. He's doing a lot of economic management of the economy through the EPA, and turning that that agency into just an out and out reign of terror. And I think that you need we need somebody to be able to step up and say this is wrong. And a guy like Romney actually, he believes in the whole Washington mantra. He's part of that, and
right.
So,
he is.
So I think that would you rather have the if he runs against Obama, would you rather have the real thing or the phony? And so a lot of people just choose the real thing.
You know what really gets me about that though? It's just, I mean, how is it that people like Romney and Santorum and these people are essentially it's a political class that makes a career out of deciding what to take out of your pocket and to whom to give it to. I mean, that in itself is insane to me. I don't understand how people can just sit there and be like, oh yeah, let's go talk to the politicians and let's just, get all these petitions going and blah, 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 so we can change the system. Yes, let's go vote again so that some other, asshole can fuck you over 3 times. I mean, it just seems insane to me. I'm sorry, that was my rant for the night.
That's good.
No, that was great.
That was great. But here's the thing that really I find just that boggles the shit out of me, which is, this whole thing that I've noticed so far, which we all know that I think Ron Paul is going to do very well. And I think that he could very well come in, first in New Hampshire. But I think part of it is he's building up a very big system, an organization of delegates to actually ensure that he could very well get the GOP nomination. But see, that's the thing. The voters at these elections, they can vote any which way they want. It's the delegates at the conventions who decide who gets the nominee, not the voters at these caucuses.
Yeah, because really what you're doing is you're electing it's exactly right. You're electing delegates who say they will represent a candidate at the convention, but that's a very different animal than a direct vote. It's exactly right. This is not a direct vote for anybody. It's it's in a very real sense, they're all straw votes.
Romney could win all of the caucuses, but Ron Paul could just land the GOP nomination with more people on his side and the delegate side than any of the delegates that Romney puts together. I mean, it's very possible. It could swing that way.
Yeah.
So,
it's just that I think that what you're seeing, especially, let me tell you, especially if Ron does well in New Hampshire. Now, it's my belief that because Romney is from as a next door guy, that he very well could win it. I think if Ron Paul were to get second place in New Hampshire, I think he would be very, very satisfied with that. In South Carolina, that's another animal. He's going to have a very, very hard time there. Of course, he hadn't done much campaigning there, but I would say that there's always going to be a lot of hanky-panky in a place like South Carolina with the Republicans. That I think he's just going to have a very hard time, and it's also the Republicans there. You have that religious right element, and being from the South, I've really seen how that works. It used to be the Democrats were, relatively conservative, or you had a lot of diversity within the Democrats. But now what you have is a coalition of the very wealthy, your trust fund babies and all that, and the blacks and the poor, and that's your coalition. I think that, but if Ron Paul gets second if he gets second in New Hampshire, I think that will give him a bit of a bounce in South Carolina to where this thing could get out of the control of the party bosses there, and then you are going to see a very, very interesting campaign, because Ron's raising money. He doesn't have to worry about that, but something else, and that is that he's got a much better organization this time. I'll be really honest. His campaign 4 years ago, frankly, was awful, especially in New Hampshire.
It was awful. He's learned a lot of mistakes since then. And
exactly.
He's put together a very great organization, a very great campaign. And by the way, I'm a proud campaign team member of the Ron Paul. I'm a precinct leader, so.
Oh my God!
Woohoo!
You must be a communist or something.
Yeah, I mean,
That's a homegrown terrorist right there.
That's it. That's it.
Well, yeah, right. I knew it. It's exactly right. It's but I think that it's going to be very, very interesting. I've always in fact I wrote in a column that I do once a month for the East Tennessee Business Journal, and I wrote that if Ron were to get the nomination, I can't imagine the Republican leadership being willing to support him. And you talk about being between a rock and a hard place, because they despise Obama, and they really understand how destructive he is, but Ron would be destructive to a lot of careers in Washington, people who make their living at the public tit. And they very well would say, well, I don't like Obama, but at least under him, I'll be able to keep what I have.
Right.
Yeah, that's what concerns me. Even if Ron Paul does win the nomination, even if he does win the presidency, his way of thinking would send a lot of people home without a job. So I wonder, would they stonewall him through everything that he tried to accomplish? I mean, imagine him trying to take down the Federal Reserve. I mean.
Oh yeah, that's exactly right. And for a lot of people, I mean, they cannot articulate, by the way, why they think the Federal Reserve they believe the Federal Reserve is a good thing. All they know is that, well, it exists, and if the government created it, they must have created it.
It must be good.
Here's another a caveat that everybody's not thinking about, which is that to the insiders who feel that way, you just mentioned there, Bill, and including you, Jackie, they're even concerned that if Ron Paul does become president, America will be a dangerous place. Newt Gingrich said this on his speech that night when he came in fourth, and of course, this is after, the whole results came through. And this is what he said. I want to play this. You guys are going to love this. You, Anja, and Jackie will love this. Check this out.
We also have to understand, and this will be a major debate with Congressman Paul, who's had a very good night, and I congratulate him on having done very well. Fact is, his views on foreign policy, I think, are stunningly dangerous for the survival of the United States.
Yeah, because we're going to leave everyone alone and not meddle in their business, and that's going to make everyone so pissed at us.
Yeah, I mean, this thing just drips with intellectual dishonesty. I mean, you can't, it's like these people have the rationalization, the machinery in their heads that must be going when, Newt says something like that. It's working a double shift. I mean, literally, you have to sit there and just blank out so many facts of reality to be able to say something like that with a straight face.
Oh,
that's
Gingrich,
fucked up.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Gingrich is, and he's the master of that. I remember about a year and a half ago getting a phone call, and this lady, she was, I guess, is what some Gingrich organization. She says, "I want to play a short recording from Newt Gingrich. Would you be willing to listen?" I said, "Sure." And so Gingrich is talking about the problem of deficits and debt and blah, blah, and all, And she said, "Do you agree with what he said?" I said, "Well, I agree with a lot of it." She says, "Would you be willing to support or sign this petition or whatever?" And I said, "No." And she said, "Why not?" I said, "Because I will do absolutely nothing to help that creepy guy make a political comeback. I don't want him making a political comeback. I don't want him around at all." She was stunned. But, I mean, Gingrich really is a creepy person, and he's very much the kind of person that Washington creates, he's always been he's a little tyrant, and God save us from short people who want to become president. I mean, you had John McCain, and no discrimination against short people. I just don't want them to be president. But
overcompensation, perhaps.
I don't know what it is, but I mean, you see some of these, Rudy Giuliani. I mean, they want to bully. I guess they really are angry about being short, and they want to screw over everybody else, all the tall people. But and of course, Ron Paul is not short like Gingrich, so that would make him automatically an enemy of Gingrich. But Gingrich really does not have, to me. I mean, he's sort of unstable. He has these grandiose views of himself. I mean, it's just, the man
needs to take some Prozac.
Well, the man really truly does have a Napoleon complex. I mean, I'm surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if he has pictures taken with his hand, inside his jacket. But he just and what did he? Divorcing his second wife.
I think the first thing he needs to do is go on a Weight Watchers diet. But other than that, I mean.
Oh, he lost weight once, but then he got pudged up again. So.
He's on divorce number 3, but don't let gay people get married because they'll ruin it.
Yeah.
That's right.
Oh, I know.
That's sanctity of marriage, and he's going to be on his 3rd soon. I'm sure he's got wife number 3 lined up already somewhere.
Well, no, he's actually, this is wife number 3. The one he's married.
Oh, I'm sorry, wife number 4.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, who knows? I mean, these guys are, this guy especially, he really is he's an egomaniac, and I was at a.
I mean, everybody knows he's a sociopath. We just didn't think he was that bad.
Yeah.
Now I'm convinced.
Oh, yeah. And I was at the house of a guy in D.C. It was in October, or maybe like beginning of November, and he's a pretty prominent guy. And he says, he says, I know Newt Gingrich, and the man would, he said, we're friends, but he said the man would not make a good president of the United States. And I think that, that Gingrich is not going to get through this thing. I mean, I think he's had his 15 minutes of fame, but it absolutely just gets under his skin that somebody like Ron Paul, who really stands against everything Gingrich is for, is doing better in whipping Gingrich and whipping him in his own game. And I think that, this guy is, he's going to try to strike back in some other ways because, frankly, he's a destructive little guy. By the way,
he is destructive.
Yeah, and Gary Bauer is short too, by the way. So that's another little dictator. And I just was watching tonight with my boys.
He looks like one of the Oompa Loompas from Charlie.
Oh my gosh, that's even he definitely would not be a hobbit. I mean, he could not.
I mean,
because hobbits are peaceful people. You're right. The Oompa Loompa. Oh yes, from
Charlie the Chocolate Factory. Yeah.
Well, I saw the one because remember I'm 58. I'm a lot older than you guys, but. Right at the end, the summer between...
Willy Wonka on the Charlie.
Yeah, exactly. 1971, the summer between my senior year and my freshman year in college. And Lisa Alexander and I went to Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. And, I think you're right. He is an maybe somebody needs to bring that up. Sir, Mr. Gingrich... has anyone said that you look like an Oompa Loompa?
He'd lose it on the stand. That would be so funny.
As long as we're talking about Washington D.C. creeps and sociopaths, does anyone know how tall Ben Bernanke is?
Oh, dude.
Oh, man.
Well, I give you Paul Krugman. Krugman's also short, and he is evil. And I always.
And my friend actually.
Friedman, by the way.
Thomas
Friedman's also just as evil as well. I mean, if you've read his columns like I have, he is just as evil as Krugman, even though Krugman. Thomas Friedman of the New York Times.
Oh yeah,
he's just as
guy.
evil.
Yeah,
right.
You were saying something, Anja?
Yeah, I was just going to say, having Krugman is just one of those. I can't even have any food in the vicinity when I'm having to deal with a Krugman column because it's just going to come right up.
Well, you got to read my blog, by the way. I have a blog called Krugman in Wonderland.
Oh, yeah. So one of my friends said, basically you can sum up Krugman's columns in 2 words, every single one of them, which is spend more. And I think it's so accurate.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know but here's the thing about people like Krugman. This is what really pisses me off. What pisses me off about people like Krugman is they are part of that whole machinery of academic intelligentsia who are completely, and no offense to you, Bill, who are completely insulated from the facts of reality, from what real people live like and what they actually have to do in order to be productive and, make money in that little bit.
I agree with you.
And he wants to talk about, the plight of the poor person and the middle class. Oh, give me a fucking break.
Thank you.
I mean, that's just ridiculous.
He's a millionaire many times over, and man makes it's and he to me guys like this represent everything. Frankly, that's really bad about economics too, because we now are at the point where they're jettisoning, the basic doctrines of opportunity costs and saying, well, now we're in a liquidity trap. We have different rules. Oh, really? Different rules? Oh, you know what? We'd suspend the law of gravity or something like that. I mean, it's just it's this kind of
in their eyes they have, Bill. I mean, that's the thing. But here's another thing that I think that should be brought up is, and this is something that I think that should be reminded of everybody. It's a great thing when you hear Michele Bachmann ending her campaign with Rick Perry, sort of going home going, I only got 10%, and Michele Bachmann's like, I got 5%, and I have to end my campaign, and I got to take out another loan, and I don't think I'm going to make it through the next day. It's like, please.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, exactly right. She, remember, she won the straw poll in Iowa, too, and so she thought she had all this momentum, and, the woman's crazy. I mean, she really is one of these folks that you just don't want to see her get unwound too much because anything could happen. They're getting their clocks cleaned by Ron Paul, and frankly, they're just really, really pissed because, everybody knows what he's saying has to be wrong because he questions what the United States is doing. And if you notice that no one ever really offers an argument against him. And what I mean by that is, for example, when Newt Gingrich says, well, frankly, they're dangerous. Well, why, Newt, are they dangerous? Why are these viewpoints so dangerous? Please explain in words, if possible. Why?
She's right.
Yeah,
she's basically the Charles Keating with breasts.
She is so weird. I saw her give a speech somewhere where she said, "Oh, gay people can marry. They just have to marry someone of the opposite sex." And I was like, you know what? You are so out of touch with the reality. I am scared that you won anything. We're going to put someone that clueless in charge of monitoring people's rights. You can get married. You just have to do it the way I want you to do it.
And she signed an anti-porn pledge, like if she were going to be president, we're going to get rid of porn.
Yeah, right.
First Amendment people. Oh, my God.
Good luck, people. And, yeah, it's
right.
just, and I'll tell you what, and here's something that you have to understand is that on so many of these issues, these are people who believe they can turn everything into a law enforcement situation, and that really is, it's destructive. As you know, I do a lot of writing in the area of, the courts of, especially prosecutorial abuse, and and so what they're doing is they want to unleash the prosecutors, because in the end, when you say, well, I'm going to make, go after porn, all right, what you're going to do is you're going to unleash the prosecutors, but the prosecutors right now are not accountable. I mean, they're not, they have complete immunity, and they're going to abuse that situation because it's human nature. You get that kind of a carte blanche, and you're going to abuse it. And so I think that, unfortunately, you really do find a lot of these people believing that they can just, if I could just turn loose the prosecutors, then we would have a wonderful and happy society. And they have no idea. And then later on, maybe, something occurs, they say, oh, we're over-criminalizing stuff. And I'm saying, well, heal yourself, physician, because you were the ones that unleashed this in the first place. And every once in a while, somebody gets it. But, boy, I'll tell you what, it's like with the drug war and else. they want to turn all of life into into law enforcement issues.
Oh yeah.
Bill,
here's another.
Bill, can I ask you a question on that, if you don't mind?
Not at all.
Yeah, that's something that's been puzzling me for quite a while. It almost seems like a lot of that stuff is just, preemptive. It's like, the cops just basically running wild with, their power.
Yeah.
Even though they know that, yes, technically they're not allowed to do that, but when they put you in jail for a night for, nothing, they know nothing is going to happen to them. So, like, these prosecutors, I just wonder if they just think they're immune to being, prosecuted themselves.
They are immune to it. Let me tell you that. I mean, you see stuff going on, and I'll give you an example. A couple of years ago, and this is when I really did some hard blogging. There was a woman where I used to live in North Georgia named Tanya Kraft, who was on trial for child molestation, and it was very, very clear that these charges were trumped up. And watching the prosecutors in action, you understand, and the more I researched into it, the more I realized what their role had been and the lies they were telling. They were lying, they were suborning perjury, the stuff that they did. And I was blogging from up here in Maryland, and it took them a while for people to figure out, hey, that's Bill Anderson. Hey, wait a second, we know this guy, but I was, I like in one blog post I called them, the gang that couldn't lie straight, and called the judge. The judge's name is Brian House. I called him Brian Outhouse, and one after them, and the stuff was just egregious what they did. And after she was acquitted, I sent letters to the Georgia State Bar and said, and gave chapter and verse of what had happened. And so I talked to a representative down there, and what she said to me is, hey, they're just doing their jobs.
Right.
And I asked her, I said, you mean doing your job is suborning perjury? And she got mad and hung up on me. And so, this is, they look, they know they're invincible. They know they're immune. They know that no matter how egregious their behavior is, nothing's going to happen to them. And let me tell you something. You put people in a position of power like that, they are going to abuse it. It's not they might abuse it. They will abuse it.
And these people have the support of the community. I mean, how often do we hear of policemen and firemen getting, you cannot say anything bad about these people because these are our protectors. Meanwhile, I'm reading an article online about a policeman being sent to a 5-year-old girl's house to collect an overdue library book. I was like, did you really have nothing better to do than be scaring 5 little girls over? But you largely cannot say anything bad about these people because, unfortunately, a lot of people don't understand how these powers can be abused, and they have the support of the community a lot of the time.
And, it doesn't really help, getting back to Santorum here briefly, and, of course, this coincides with Ron Paul as well, is that, Santorum's media girl, this babe, this hot-looking chick, is supporting Ron Paul and not her boss. Even Santorum's nephew is not even supporting his uncle. And he would not even help his uncle jack off. No, I'm just kidding. He is basically supporting Ron Paul. You've got celebrities from Kelly Clarkson and Michele Branch and Joe Perry, Aerosmith's Joe Perry, endorsing Ron Paul. I mean, it's a huge win for Ron Paul. Where are these celebrity endorsements for these big control freaks on the GOP side? There are none.
Yeah.
None.
No.
I mean, 11, 12 years ago, I remember when Marilyn Manson gave his support for George W. Bush at one point. But that was just one endorsement. Where are these celebrity endorsements? There are none.
I honestly can't. I swear to God, I cannot think of any for anyone else but Ron Paul. I honestly cannot.
That's exactly right. If there are, it's from somebody. You know, well, this guy, he was an extra. He was one of the orcs in Lord of the Rings or something. You know, I mean, it's just.
Oh wow.
No, that's the sort of thing that they would do for celebrity endorsement. No, that's just what you have with guys like Romney and Santorum, whatever. I mean, you have endorsements from other politicians. What does that tell you? And you have endorsements from the people that stand to gain personally, politically, financially from this person. What you don't have is somebody endorsing them on a matter of principle, because there are none for these people.
Right. Here's another issue that I think we need to venture into here, which is finally we know the identity of the racists who wrote the content for the Ron Paul newsletters in the 90s. And that happens to be at James B. Powell. This was identified on iReport.cnn.com.
Actually, it was pulled down.
Yeah,
it was pulled down. Yeah, someone didn't like that article, I guess, because it got pulled down. I managed to get a copy of the actual article, but of the actual thing that was written, but the piece on ICNN is not there anymore.
Yeah, right. I think of the actual article, and it's funny. Doesn't this take the heat off of Lew and Ron now that we know this jackass?
Well, it's an interesting point, and it's going to be interesting to see what what the Reason magazine crowd and also what the Cato crowd does, because they were using this. I mean, you saw Ed Crane's article in the Wall Street Journal, why Ron Paul matters, and the very first thing that it would. Lew Rockwell of the Mises Institute in Alabama, so it's just it was again the Beltway libertarians trying to use this as a as a wedge against against the Mises Institute, and part of it is it's issues of fundraising, because they you tend to sometimes, at least to a certain extent, recruit out of the same thing. And also there's score settling going on, and this goes back to Rothbard and his fight with the Koch brothers. But I hope it does. I'll be honest, some of the stuff that I had read, I told somebody, I said, boy, that just doesn't sound like the Lew Rockwell that I've known for many years. And remember, I'm an adjunct with the Mises Institute. I've been tied with them since 1996, and it never. I mean, when I read some of the stuff I read, I thought, man, if that's Lew, he's done a 360 or 180 since then, because that just didn't sound like him at all. And by the way, I actually know Jim Powell, and he's written some good stuff, like I think on the Great Depression and whatnot, but and on Roosevelt. But I think that it's a little more clear what happened. Some of these guys are writing some things, and Ron was just Ron was not making that big a deal. I think, unfortunately, this was the opening for some of the Reason magazine crowd, because I think that, frankly,
well, they were looking to smear Ron. I mean, let's keep something in perspective here. James Kirchick, who was a paid loyalist for basically the Rudy Giuliani camp back in 2007, he wanted to smear Ron. When I brought this to Bill Westmiller of the Republican Liberty Caucus's attention, he goes, well, it doesn't really matter who wrote the newsletter. All that matters is who published it, and that was Lew Rockwell. I'm thinking, come on, Bill.
Because the truth is irrelevant. It's how can I use this even if it's not honest, to the best of my priorities and what I think people should know about, Ron Paul or Lew Rockwell. I mean, we're talking about the truth in politics. These things just unfortunately do not go together.
Don't get me wrong. I love Bill Westmiller personally as a friend, but he comes off as a complete jackass on this issue. I mean, he does. I mean, this guy, let me read you specifically what he said here. Anyone can write any column they please for any media at any time. The sole determination of whether or not it gets published is up to the editor, sometimes with guidance from the publisher. It is the editor's choice of whether to publish a column with a byline or it's a generic piece under the named banner. Well, there's truth in that, but yeah, and I can criticize Lew Rockwell for stupidly allowing this to grace the front cover. I've been critical of Lew for that. Mm-hmm. But I don't believe he is the ghost writer that the Reason crowd. Even Bill Westmiller was trying to put a spin on that, saying, well, they never said that he wrote stuff. Well, of course they did.
That's exactly what they said.
That's exactly what they said. It's nothing but a reverse spin, Bill.
Exactly. And I'll tell you that it goes even beyond that, because it's the Mises Institute really has stuck in the crawl of these folks because, number one, that they really pushed Rothbard and Mises, and a lot of these people really wanted both of those men just to go away. I mean, and especially Rothbard, because they didn't like Rothbard. And they wanted to destroy. Yeah, wanted to destroy him personally. And and so I think that's where a lot of that animus was, and that the Mises Institute's done fine, but and we've got we put good people out there, guys like Mark Thornton and Joe Salerno, and these guys are good economists, and they hate them. I mean, it's too bad, but I mean, it's that real hatred that they have, and also what they want to do. A lot of these guys, like this guy like Peter Betke, and Peter's a friend of mine, but they want to be accepted by the academic mainstream. And the Mises Institute, and like for example, the Quarterly Journal of Austrian Economics says, "Hey, we want to smash the mainstream neoclassical paradigm. We want to smash it." Well, that doesn't get you any respect at Chicago, and or respect elsewhere. And so you have a lot of the people there. They want to, quote, they say they want a dialogue with the mainstream. Oh, hell, that's just not going to happen. Mainstream's not interested in dialoguing with you. They're interested in co-opting you. And so you always get co-opted in those situations. And so we're just seen really as a bunch of rogues. I mean, there are plenty of college departments out there that would not hire anybody who had any association with the Mises Institute, because we're just a bunch of rogues, and we're not respectable.
I've had people not want to drive anywhere with me because I have a Gadsden flag sticker on my car. I'm serious.
You have a what?
She has a Gadsden sticker on her car, but
I
mean, but they were trying to pin this on Ron Paul initially, because they were making it sound like, oh well, he wrote the racist stuff. But you know something? I would agree, even with Sheldon Richman and with a number of critics, of prominent libertarians in the movement, that Ron should have known better than to let his newsletter largely go unnoticed in terms of not monitoring what was going on. But he had his medical practice to run.
Now, I'll be honest, I bet at that time he didn't even think he was getting back into politics. And I just, frankly, whatever. I mean, something, Robert Byrd was in the goddamn Ku Klux Klan. and
right.
and so on and so forth, and people, and
I mean, I thought the stuff in that newsletter, in the newsletters, were awful, but you know, and it should never have been in there.
Yeah.
But you know, but what's really bad about this is, well, this is what Bill Witzmiller writes. He goes, it is true that Kirchhoff didn't mention Powell's byline in his main article, but he did mention that some of the articles had bylines, and anyone could read them to find the Powell article. TNR, the National Republic, put them online 40 years ago, so it isn't hiding anything. Oh, come off it, Bill.
Well, look, I mean, that National Review supported Jim Crow laws. And you know, it's how come, and so on and so forth. I mean, I'm just at some point, you know, some of these things just don't matter. But the problem is that you have people looking to discredit him because they can't do it on other fronts, and because, frankly, Ron Paul's also a threat to the Beltway set. He really is. And he's the last guy. I mean, that
he's also a threat to within certain libertarian elements within the GOP, because they think that, because even Bill Witzmiller told me in private that there's a tinge of America first in his, you know, in his free trade argument. Mm-hmm. Like, he's very protectionistic. I'm thinking, come off it.
Oh, yeah.
He's not. I mean, he's very consistent on that.
No. He's not Pat Buchanan, and people have to understand.
He's not Pat Buchanan.
Yeah.
Right.
And they try to make him, you know, as Pat Buchanan. I mean, you know, Ron Paul's never said stuff like Pat. You know, I mean, you'll never see Ron Paul saying, "Oh my gosh, we're at the end of Christian Europe." I mean, you know, hey, guess what? Europe, Christian Europe disappeared at the first shots in 1914, folks, and so to be replaced by violent, cynical Europe. But I think that what we have to understand is that the Beltway libertarians really are not interested in real life change. They just want to be there in Washington, you know, in that sewer that they think is a hot tub, and dialogue with these folks, you know, have pictures of themselves with Ben Bernanke and others. Oh, we're having roundtable discussions, you know, with the Fed, and they want to be players. They want to be policy wonks. They want to, you know, be seen, you know, hey, so and so testified, you know, before Congress. Well, that's just, you know, testifying before Congress is, you know, it's a dog and pony show. Give me a break. But in the end, they're still, by the way, they're still going to be dismissed as kooks, even though that they're, you know, ass kissing in every way that they can. They're still going to be dismissed as kooks. And look, I mean, I think, and I've written for Cato Publications. I don't have problem with them. In fact, the latest edition of Regulation magazine, I've got an article in that. And so I just think that Ron, though, really is a threat. Because he's a threat to the status quo in a way that nobody has been. And, oh, my gosh, I mean, people are scared to death. He's got people running scared because what if this guy actually ends my subsidy?
Well, you know, this is a very important discussion, because you've got people like the former national chair of the ROC going, well, I only wish Rockwell had an ounce of courage or integrity. He could have ended all the speculation just by standing up and admitting that he made an error. So far, he has flatly refused to do that. With friends like that, Paul doesn't need enemies like Kirchhoff.
Oh,
really, Bill?
Oh,
really? I mean, you know. I mean,
now, can I give you a person? I'm going to get personal here, okay? Because that probably a lot of people don't know this, but in fact, on Monday it'll be our fourth adopted child. My wife is in Latvia with a girl named Cynthia who's 13, and they have the court date on Monday, and that adoption will, at least on that side, will be final. But I've got with Cynthia, it'll be 5 kids. One of them's grown up and she's married, but 4 of them are adopted, and 2 of the adopted boys are Ethiopians. And the girl, the first girl we adopted, she's from Guatemala. And here's the point, though, that we were doing these adoptions, and with full support of people from the Mises Institute, including Lew Rockwell, including his sister-in-law, including all these people. Well, including John Sophocles, who's part of the League of the South. All these people are supposed to be anti-black terrorists and raving racists. They were encouraging, and some of them giving money to us to help us with these adoptions. And so if, in fact, these people are such vicious racists, then why did they welcome these 2 boys into our family and into the group? Because you get it's like a big family. And Habtamu, one of my sons, and I go to the Austrian Scholars Conference every year, and they always give him just a great welcome there. Now, so tell me, if they're such racists, then why then why do they act like this? Why haven't I been ostracized by Lew Rockwell and by Mark Thornton and by the others? I have not been. And
but there are those people who will call Lew Rockwell a coward for not coming out, for not saying this. I mean, and I know who they are.
Oh yeah.
And and the fact of the matter is, you know what? Lew Rockwell has done a lot of things in his life. I'm not particularly fond of a lot of the stuff that he has on his site at times, like some of the language on his site. But I think he has done a great job for the liberty movement itself.
Oh,
I wish the liberty movement would stop eating its young, stop attacking each other, and start working together, and rather, accept the fact that yes, we all have certain biases and prejudices. Mm-hmm. You mean to tell me that there are certain kinds of people you don't like? I mean, you've got Aaron Bitterman, who doesn't like Muslims, apparently, who's been attacking Ron Paul. Where's your criticism of Aaron on that?
Yeah,
I don't hear any criticism.
Yeah, I'm not.
Walter Block was basically responding to Aaron Bitterman's attack on Ron Paul, basically saying, well, Ron Paul's an anti-Semite. Ron Paul, does not want aid to Israel. Ron Paul is this. Ron Paul's that. I mean, come on.
And that's the lowest common denominator anyway. That's feeding to fear instead of just looking at the actual issues and seeing how the current system has just fucked everything up.
Yeah.
Right.
And Anja, that's a good point, because what do they end up doing? They end up going down all of these little trails that of things that are utterly meaningless. I mean, for example, even this whole racist and bigotry stuff. How many other people running for president of the United States have come out and said, we have got to stop this drug war, and one of the reasons is it's because it's destroying black communities. Our black president isn't willing to do that. No, he continues to victimize the black communities.
Nice try to those who are trying to basically attack Ron Paul, and even to a somewhat of a lesser extent Lew Rockwell. But the whole angle, that the strategy that you're using is backfiring on you because you're not making friends this way.
Yeah.
This is not the way.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I think that a lot of them, they hated Murray, they hate Lew, and so this is their way to be able to get back at him. And frankly, I think a lot of these, they're a lot like how the Republicans were for years. The Republicans, especially when Bob Michael was leading them, that were very, very happy at being in the minority, because they didn't have to bear any responsibility in Congress at all. They could just go there and wring their hands at all the horrible things the Democrats were doing, and didn't have to worry about anything. And so then all of a sudden, when somebody actually was going to do something to make them the majority, it's, oh my gosh, now what do we do? Now we've got to make decisions. And of course they already screwed up when they governed.
Right. Quick thoughts on this, Jackie, about the whole newsletter thing, and you too, Anja.
Oh, go ahead, Anja.
I am, to be frank, I am not really familiar with all those stats, but it does very eerily remind me of sort of what happened within the objectivism movement, which, I've been part of for a number of years, and it seems to be sort of one of those things that kind of just happens within certain movements of thought or philosophy or whatnot, and in some way or another, I don't really think that you can prevent it, but it's just sort of one of those examples of, people thinking that, because they have all these various virtuous values and principles correct, that by default they're always correct. And, it's like this inhuman idea of you cannot possibly be wrong about this or, be at fault or whatnot. So, which is a little silly. I mean, we all, I think, could use a healthy dose of humility. But let me just make a quick point about this whole racism issue, which I find humorous. That's one of the things that gets leveraged against libertarians so much, especially when we talk about stuff like the civil rights movement, which obviously Ron Paul has, said he wouldn't have passed civil rights legislation and whatnot. But nobody ever bothers to actually look at the arguments for that. It's just, oh my God, he was against civil rights, he must be a racist. But let's just turn this around and say, if you were to attack a guy like, super progressive Rahm Emanuel or, God forbid, Obama, for the fact that they don't support school choice, which basically imprisons the black minorities in urban, crappy public schools.
Or
that's not racist,
Yeah. Right. Or how about this one? What about the Black Power movement? I mean, imagine if they were running a store and you're a customer and you wanted to buy something. We can't have you crackers in here because we don't like white people. Black Power. Screw the man. They're keeping the black man down. That would be illegal under the current law.
Yeah.
So, it's amazing that, we got to have, we can't have, discriminating against black people if it's been done by a white person owning his property. And, I'm saying this from a non-racist viewpoint, but if it were the other way around, then it would be okay. Somehow it would be justified. Quickly here, your thoughts on President Obama signing into law that National Defense Bill, Jackie, 30 seconds, your thoughts on that.
The fact that they had to wait till New Year's Eve and most people were drunk out of their minds to sign that and then put it out there, that should basically show there was something seriously wrong.
Amen.
How about you, Bill?
Oh, I think I agree with Jackie, and I'll tell you that this, that in essence, it effectively repeals the Bill of Rights, and they say, well, we won't do this. Look, once you give somebody the kind of power to do it, to do these things, then invariably this will be used, and they're always going to find cheerleaders for it, which is truly sickening.
Right. Your final thought on this, Anja?
Fucked up.
If they had no intention of holding the American citizens, they wouldn't have passed that.
Yeah.
Right. Good point.
To me, this is just, if anybody thinks after this that Obama is in some way or another for protecting rights, civil rights, they're an absolute fucking moron. I mean, that's just, you can't think that he wants to protect people's rights in any way after something like that. But the more suspicious thing from the get-go to me, of course, was that they packaged it. Well, it's not suspicious; it's obvious that they packaged it in the defense bill. Which, who's going to veto the defense bill? Come on, people, wake up!
Right. And now it's time to go into new one rules and the end of show commentary segments. New one rule. Conservatives need to stop calling for control of the borders, occupying lands in foreign countries, as well as our own, especially the ones between ours and Mexico. But if they're going to demand that we need to have borders, then they need to make a trade-off. What's more important for you and your constituencies this campaign season? The border between Iran and Pakistan or the U.S. and Mexico? Let me guess. You guys want the former, right? Wrong answer. Okay, Todd, we picked the U.S. and Mexico. Wrong answer. The correct $100 million answer is neither. And by the way, you don't get a trip to the Bahamas since neither any of you answered that question incorrect. The U.S. government shouldn't be controlling both the borders between the U.S. and Mexico and the borders between Iran and Pakistan. Afraid Juan Valdez might step onto a rancher's property, private property with jars of habaneros and jalapenos and speaking Spanish so quickly like Speedy Gonzalez. Please, don't speak Arabic. Have no idea what hummus is. Give me a fucking break. If you can't understand what the fuck they're saying, that's what the Rosetta Stone language CDs are for, dumbasses. New one rule. Here's an open letter to the producers, composers, lyricists, and directors on Broadway. Please, please, please don't do a Twilight musical. It's going to suck ass at the box office. And then let me remind you, girlfriends, what I warn you about will amount to be an I told you so in advance. Seriously, do we need to see legions of fans of the hit Stephenie Meyer books and movie series hit the stage theaters to see their favorite character belting out a tune that would make the Phantom and a bunch of singing cats snivel in the background? Do we need to see Team Jacob and Team Edward fans there as if they're going to a live concert venue? What will be the show-stopping number? I Can't Sparkle Enough for You? New one rule. The Republicans in Iowa must be dumb shits to vote for Romney and put him in Santorum in first place and Ron Paul in second if they feel so weary about Paul's foreign policy positions. Let's face it. The only conservative to win Iowa higher than 25% was Mike Huckabee in 2008, and it hasn't been higher since the conclusion of this week's Iowa Caucus. Social conservatives may have won Iowa, but you people don't get to win New Hampshire. Not at all. Especially when you have a name like Rick Santorum, whose last name sounds like a mixture of semen and fecal matter after the performance of sodomy. Or as we libertarians like to call it, ass fucking.
Ooh.
And finally, new one rule. The real author of the Ron Paul racist newsletters appear to be outed. And it's finally over. The fuck job behind this shit that has plagued Ron Paul for many years is none other than James B. Powell. Now, who is this man, James B. Powell? This man is a director listed on Forbes.com for the Mid-Carolina Financial Corporation, a banking firm based in Burlington, North Carolina. Yes, that's right. This 71-year-old dipshit is the same who was outed as the primary writer of the news writers, thus ending what appears to be an ongoing witch hunt aimed at Lew Rockwell as the ghostwriter of the newsletters by several members of the staff at Reason magazine. That puts that old issue to rest. I read the racist newsletter, and it's disgusting. I haven't read the other racist newsletters, although just certain passages from other issues that were deemed racist. That would make me want to empty my stomach for a week. Now it was long rumored that Lew Rockwell wrote them, and for a time I believed it. Not anymore. I'm now convinced that he didn't do it. If anything, Rockwell is guilty of letting that shit grace the cover of these issues without bylines and the one with a byline. Why Ron Paul gave him editorial control would make anyone wonder. But I do have an answer for that. Loyalty. Loyalty to a man who threw Ron under the bus without taking responsibility for allowing this mess to continue on and on like a disease metastasizing throughout the body, attaching it to any vital organ it could. That's essentially what it did, and it wasn't fair to Ron because Ron got creamed over it and Rockwell earned all the glory he could get out of the package deal. It's time to put an end to this bullshit. It's time for Rockwell to stand up and be a new stand-up guy for once and say, I fucked up, I take sole responsibility too, and I need to own the fact that I let this bigot's bullshit get published, and I deserve the scorn and contempt for my transgression. That would be the right and smart thing to do. And it would be a good thing to do, not just for Ron Paul and the Ron Paul revolution, but also for the libertarian movement as a whole. Let's restore Ron's dignity and keep it clean. Let's help him wash his hands of it. And it's time we kept it clean, too. It's the right and smart thing to do. And it's a good thing to do as well. It's time to jettison that baggage and restore this movement to become even more vibrant and better than ever. Oh, and Jim Powell, fuck you, you racist, homophobic bigot, and have a nice year. All right, that's our show. Thanks to Jackie Fiest, Anja Hartleb, and LewRockwell.com blogger and writer Bill Anderson for appearing on the show. That's all for tonight, folks. Thanks for listening. Good night. See ya.